Well, hello, and thank you all so much for yet another Professional Pricing Society podcast and joining us for today's discussion. My name is Terrence, and we have a great conversation ahead of us. Today, we have George Garza. He's a strategic consultant at an amazing company called Pros, who, by the way, will be at our Atlanta conference this upcoming fall, October 10th through the 13th. And they are a longtime PPS sponsor, so we're excited to see them yet again. George is going to be speaking with us about pricing as a team sport. George, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Doing well, doing awesome. Glad to have you here. Glad to, it's a nice bright morning today over on my side of town. I'm actually based in Atlanta right now. I'm not sure if you guys are, where are you guys based out of?
I'm here in Houston.
Houston, nice. Is it hot over
Yeah.
there like it is in Atlanta?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool. We'll go ahead and dive into this conversation. I wanted to ask you first, what's the significance of digital transformations when you think about today's business landscape?
Yeah. So when you think about today's business landscape, right, especially like in a post-COVID world, a lot of companies are looking to rein in their pricing, right? There's a lot of dynamic conditions now.
Hmm.
They want to achieve pricing parity across their different business channels, increase profits, right, gain market share, bring in new customers. Um, but you really saw a lot of companies weren't able to react fast enough
Hmm.
with their current systems during COVID, right? When all those changes happened, and then
Hmm.
afterwards, right? So companies are looking to move towards a more frictionless, seamless, and digital experience throughout their entire organization.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of the way the future is taking us. Now,
Mhm.
when you think about the path of digital transformations, what does it typically look like? Or what should someone who is not familiar, what should they expect to encounter?
Yeah. So on that path, right there's a series of steps as we like to think of it, right? It's a pricing journey. And so, most customers, right, there's the first phase and there's the idea of reactive pricing. And that's when a customer is working out of Excel spreadsheets or companies working out of Excel spreadsheets, right? They're very reactive on their pricing. They can't be proactive and strategic. And then so you think of the next step beyond that. Okay, how do I grow? How do I get better? And that's where you do the initial price management. So you start to apply some rules, some constraints, some methodology into how you're pricing. And so now you have more of a structure. After that, as you grow in your journey towards that maturity model, you introduce the idea of price guidance, right? And so this is, would be like AI powered price optimization, where you're looking at your customers and their willingness to pay, and how you can use that to help your sales team and your pricing teams strategize and execute on pricing. And then after that,
Nice.
you can move into the idea of integrated e-commerce, right? So now you can bring in your e-commerce platform, ensuring that your price is holistic throughout your entire business, which leads us to the final step of omni-channel optimization. And
Mhm.
so now all of your business, it's in harmony in terms of how that pricing is executed, right? You've got the different silos all working together to ensure that the execution of that price is powerful and consistent.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a lot of pathways to travel to make sure everything is all synced and, kind of flowing together in unison. Um, who makes this possible? How does it happen? Who makes this possible?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I mean, when you think about pricing, when you think about these digital transformations, right? Everyone's
Hmm.
first thought is, oh, it's just a pricing team. But
Hmm.
that's not necessarily true, right? Because in any kind of digital transformation, you're going to have at least five key functional areas that are going to be most affected by pricing. And of course, the first is pricing.
Hmm.
The second is the sales team. Then you have the executive team, the finance team, and then your IT team, right? And so alignment across these different stakeholders is key and critical, right, in order to make sure that the project is a success and that everything can work seamlessly.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's a lot of different departments to make everything work seamlessly, which it takes a lot of minds, a lot of hands to make everything kind of flow smoothly, especially when in regards to pricing. Why is it important for organizations, really in any kind of industry, to consider these different five essentially slices of the pie when thinking about digital transformation?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Terrence. And so if you think about it, pricing is one of the most important decisions a business can make, right? And it's going to have a significant impact on profitability, market share, customer satisfaction. It's going to, impact your overall revenue, your integrations as an IT team. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, if all of these five slices are considered, you'll have a higher chance of success on your transformation, and you'll have buy-in and adoption from the entire organization.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, good. Which makes perfect sense. Now, when you think about these pricing pathways and just five slices, these five different departments coming together to make everything flow smoothly in unison, what are some of the most common pricing mistakes that businesses often, find themselves in, or they tend to make?
No, so that's a good question, Terrence. Right. So the most common pricing mistakes that businesses can make, I'd say the first one is siloing, where they're
Mhm.
not working together with those other slices of the pie,
Mhm.
right? Because that's going to lead to reduced adoption and decrease the odds of success for this transformation. All right, and then the second one would be to consider the importance of IT when making these decisions, right? Because
Mhm.
they're the ones that are going to have to own the product at the end of the day. So you want to make sure that they're bought in, they understand what's at stake, who's going to own what. That way, you have everything you need to ensure the pipes are clean to
Mhm.
get the data to have accurate pricing.
Mhm. That's interesting on the IT aspect. I have a question I want to ask about the IT aspect, but before I ask that, I have one more I want to kind of ask that's still related to the digital transformations and in this realm. How can pricing help to optimize the organization's revenue and margins, and essentially their centric pricing process?
So pricing can help because first you want to determine what the right price for the right product is. And so if you don't have the proper data to make those decisions, then you're putting in a lot of guesswork with your pricing.
Mm,
And if you aren't intelligent with those pricing decisions, then you could be leaving a lot of money on the table,
mm,
right? When you think about pricing, there's a lot of factors that go in. If I have a glass of water, right, and I'm like, hey, Terrence, or I got a bottle of water, right? I'm going to sell it to
mm.
you right now. What would you pay for it?
For a bottle of water?
Yeah, right now.
Now, are we talking regular prices or airport prices? Regular prices,
Ah,
I'd
yeah,
probably
yeah.
pay
That's
like
yeah,
two or
yeah.
three dollars.
$2 or $3 exactly. Okay. It's 110 outside, and we've been hiking for 6 hours, and you haven't had water. How much would you
Mm.
pay for that?
I'd pay more if I feel like I need it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
personally, I would pay more. Yes.
I wouldn't deprive you of water in that situation, so I just give it to you. But
No, but
but
that's a good
the idea
point.
is, yeah, the idea is that people, there's different factors that go into the perceived value or what people are willing to pay or customers are willing to pay for anything, right?
Mhm.
So if you think about that, right, you have the right data. You now have a system that can use, AI and machine learning to optimize the pricing, and not necessarily say this is the only price it's going to be, but hey, here's a range of,
Mhm.
how, what's possible in the price, right? And here's your success on that price. Then that can help you have a better understanding of what's going to impact your revenue and margin.
Mm. Yeah, which that's good. That makes a lot of sense. And the analogy kind of puts it into perspective as well. If you feel like
Yeah.
hiking prices makes more sense if people are in a more demand of whatever the product or service is.
I mean, or very real situation, which you brought up, which is
Yeah,
the airport.
yeah, you're
You
right.
go through the your security line, you don't have water anymore. It's like,
Mhm, exactly, yep.
so
And I'm based out of Atlanta, so we have Hartsville Jackson, which is one of the busiest and the most populated, so the prices over there are a little bit different than some other airports, I would say. I
yep.
wanna steer the question over towards regarding the IT department. Obviously, the IT team is responsible for providing the technology and data that the pricing team needs to make informed decisions. What are some of the key IT considerations for digital transformation? You kind of alluded to it a little earlier in the conversation, but because you brought it up once before, I want to kind of switch gears from the pricing aspect and kind of move it towards IT aspect.
Yeah, so that's a good question, Terrence. So ultimately, right, the IT, you want them to ensure that the organization's data is secure and compliant, right? And then, as I stated earlier, they want to consider the overall system's architecture. So, how our prices going to get from the pricing team to the sales team? How are the analytics going to get from pricing to finance? How can the executive team get a view and understanding of everything that's happening with those other slices of the pie? And that's what comes down to that systems architecture.
Cool. So the five slices of the pie: the pricing team, the sales team, executive team, finance, and the IT team. I want to ask you a bit of off-script question. I want to
Yeah.
ask you this question as well. Who takes the reins? Where does the conversation begin when considering, changes in pricing, considering things like inflation, pricing trends? Who starts the conversation amongst these five different departments?
Yeah, it could come from uh the scenarios that you gave. It can come from primarily like the pricing team, the executive team, sometimes finance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it could come from the sales team, right, where they want to increase their sales, right, and it starts from there. And how, what can we do to be more competitive with pricing? But typically, it'll be the executive in context of pricing. It'll be the executive team or the pricing team, whether it's sales that originates that pursuit or it's a pricing team. They're both going to have to come together in that decision ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the executive team, right? They have a strategy, they have a vision, they have a direction they want to go. Um, and so, okay, we want to execute and achieve a certain amount of margin within, the next 3 to 4 years, for instance, or for 5 years. Great. Well, how do you do that? That's the next question.
Mm-hmm.
So the how will come down to the pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we pricing today? How often are we changing prices? You know, are we able to incur costing data into our pricing and execute on it as quickly as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the pricing team will come in and start looking at how they can be better at pricing and be faster. And then, of course, I'd mentioned sales. Sales will then be the ones that have to go out to the market and say, all right, this is what we're offering at this
Mm-hmm.
price,
Yeah.
yes or no. And if there's negotiation involved, right, then you want to know how far can you go in either direction, right? What's
Mm-hmm.
the where's your floor? Where's your expert price, right? Things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So
Okay. So essentially, it can come from almost any direction. It's situational, what it sounds like.
it
But you
is.
did you
It
did
is.
break it down. If it's from, especially like the how we're gonna, how are we gonna communicate this price to our customers? How are we gonna make this shift and make it reasonable and smooth? So it's. I'm glad you broke it down in the way you did, because it really can come from any direction.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice. So George Garza, everybody, strategic consultant for pros. Want to thank you so much for your time today, good sir. A friendly reminder: pros will be at our fall conference in October, October 10th through the 13th in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, one more question for you, George, before I let you go. Where can listeners go to learn more about the different resources you or pros have to offer, or just to learn more about you all in general?
Yeah. Just head on over to pros.com, pros.com.
Okay.
And we've got a number of assets and resources there for people to get to know more about what we do.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time today, good sir. And until next time, we will speak to you all later.